Rush, and then eventually joined College Republicans when I was still in school. None of this existed back then. None of this infrastructure, none of this networking, the connections, the power of social media, and then on top of those real bastions like talk radio, showing people how you can do, hey, here's a morning drive show, here's an afternoon show, and then of course Rush 12 to 3. That just became my anchor, right? And so I was the kid, even before iPods were a thing. How's it going? Oh, just a thing. Sorry, a ton of those. No, that I would have 12 to 3, I'd be sitting there in school with like a little headphone half on in the back of the lecture hall listening to Rush on it was like a Walkman basically. 100% talk radio is how I got in, and I really do think now as you're seeing the explosion of that, the explosion of podcasts, people want that kind of intellectual, fact-based, story-based content. And yeah, TV will always be around. TV is, there's a lot of sensationalism, there's a lot of image there, but when you go to radio, it really goes back to that tagline that people always used to say, that radio is theater for the mind, and I truly believe that.
Yeah, no, and that kind of brings me to what I really wanted to interview you about, was the big tech media. They seem to really go after you, and I think it's just because you're a correspondent and you're on the right. But with Jen Psaki and everything coming out now about how she just blatantly said, yeah, Facebook.
Hey, can you just stand the camera there? I'd really appreciate that. Just right there? That'd be great.
It's fine. I'm gonna cut it all up and doctor it up. It's fine. But with big tech working
so
in the United States, what does that mean for platforms like radio?
So this is something that people have seen in radio for a long time. They used to call it the fairness doctrine, right? You're now seeing the federal government come in and state, right, without even making it a formal announcement, it's almost like they say it as an aside, that they have power over what's said and what is discussed on the internet. This has an absolute chilling effect because now everybody's sitting there. By the way, the same administration that's saying they want to look at your text messages to make sure that you're not texting misinformation about coronavirus, right? Well, I remember that myself and a lot of other people were reporting that there was this laboratory in Wuhan all the way back in January of 2020. And I said, guys, we need to pay attention to this lab. We need to see what was going on in there, because these experiments, these gain of function things, this is starting to look really dangerous. And a lot of the stuff that they're saying, the spike proteins, the ACE2 receptors, right? That's a lot of the same stuff that I start hearing about when it comes to the actual infectiousness of the coronavirus, right? But if you said that throughout all of 2020, you could get banned, you could get shadow banned, you could get zapped completely, you could be suspended. And funny enough, the only time I've ever faced a suspension myself was I got locked out for 12 hours for doing nothing other than posting the New York Post article about Hunter Biden's laptop. That's the only time it's ever happened. So we know, right? We know big tech decided to collude and interfere in the 2020 election in a meaningful way to censor a story about one of the leading candidates' ties to foreign countries, Russia, Ukraine, and China, in the absolute last hours, right? This was September, I believe it came out, September, October of that election, right? So when people look at this, I think you are getting a situation now where even people that don't necessarily consider themselves conservative, but people who just consider themselves moderate or centrist or middle of the road, or whatever, what have you, they're looking at that and saying, that's not American. Right, there's a problem here. And if government with the White House is coming in and saying that they're the ones behind it, that just makes it even worse.
And do you currently have anything, I was trying to look for it, do you have any lawsuits or anything pending with Facebook, Twitter, or anything like that? I know that.
Well, no. I don't have any specific action for myself because fortunately I haven't faced that type of suspension that a lot of other people have. However, one thing that we are